Okay, we'll start and begin with today's webinar. So I'd like to welcome everyone today. My name is Jack Murphy. I'm the executive editor of the Architects newspaper, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's program. Take advantage of your vertical surfaces, building integrated photovoltaics, a CE Strong webinar series, a live webinar that's part of the CE Strong webinar series powered by the Architects newspaper. And today's webinar is sponsored by Mitrex. So this program is registered with the AIA CES for continuing professional education. Questions related to specific materials, methods, and services will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation. And this webinar is recorded and can be easily replayed if you re-register on the same webinar registration page. And then please allow 7 business days to process certificates of participation and AIA credit reporting. So today we have an exciting program. In this webinar, you will learn about learning objectives include you will learn how to recall the basics of solar energy, including its key components and how it traditionally has been harnessed. Describe building integrated photovoltaics, BIPVs, and discuss how they improve upon traditional photovoltaics in terms of design and performance. Demonstrate ways to incorporate BIPV systems into existing or new construction in order to maximize a project's sustainability targets, and illustrate the money and energy savings possible through BIPVs by analyzing market research and case studies. So we encourage you to follow along and ask questions of our speaker using the Zoom Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or at the bottom of your Zoom window. We'll deal with questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to log them as they arise. So today, I'm really happy to be joined by our presenter, Terry Oswald, here from Mitrex. Terry excels at understanding the unique energy needs of the built environment, offering tailored solar cladding solutions that not only reduce carbon footprints, but also enhance the architectural appeal and energy efficiency of their buildings. And she specializes in identifying opportunities for sustainable building facades and aligning the company's mission with the ever-growing demand for sustainable building solutions. So remember, again, to leave your questions for Terry in the Q&A. And I'm so happy you're here to talk about this urgent topic. And take it away, Terry.
Thank you. This is very exciting. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to going through the presentation with you. So as mentioned, my name is Terry Oswald. I am a very proud representative of Mitrex Solar Technologies. And so I'm going to go through the presentation with you, and I look forward to your questions at the end. So let me just, I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to stop the video first. That way it doesn't slow anything down. I'm going to share my screen and bring up the presentation. And go. Can you see the slideshow?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So taking advantage of your vertical surfaces is a really important course that addresses what exactly are building integrated photovoltaics and what does that mean to a building owner, and what that means for architects and how you can integrate that into your design. So we're going to go through a lot of the basics of solar, what BIPV is, how it can be integrated into a building project. So the course is formally called Take Advantage of Your Vertical Surfaces. It is worth 1 learning unit and 1 HSW. So as mentioned early, this registration will be taken care of on behalf of the organization for you. So The credits earned on completion of this course will be reported to AIA CES for AIA members. Certificates of completion for both AIA members and non-AIA members are available upon request. So the course is registered with AIA CES for continuing professional education, and as such, it does not include content that may be deemed or construed to be an approval or endorsement by the AIA of any material of construction or any method or manner of handling, using, distributing, or dealing in any material or product. So we are going to address how we can effectively combat climate change, and we need to acknowledge that the role of the building industry plays in global CO2 emissions. We need to shift not only how we think about designing our buildings, but also how we power our communities. And so today's course is going to discuss how BIPVs can be integrated into both new and old buildings to improve performance and aesthetics and lower energy costs. So the learning objectives, hopefully by the end of this course, you're going to be able to recall the basics of solar, including the key components and how it's traditionally been harnessed. You're going to be able to describe BIPV and discuss how they improve on traditional photovoltaics. And you're going to be able to demonstrate ways to incorporate BIPV systems into existing or new construction in order to maximize a project's sustainability targets. And hopefully you'll understand the money and the energy savings possible through integrating BIPVs by analyzing market research. So section 1, introduction to BIPV and sustainable building. So sustainability is a very hot topic right now. And, in the building industry, it is becoming more and more a topic of discussion. And it is something that is initiated by both architects to their clients and something that clients are speaking about with their architects. So it's going both ways, and it is definitely gaining a lot of momentum. The fact is that CO2 emissions from buildings reached an all-time high in 2019, and buildings were responsible for 40% of global energy-related CO2 emissions, primarily from space cooling appliances and electric plug loads. So how do we achieve sustainable buildings? By integrating materials with low carbon embodiment. That's number one. Number two, sustainable buildings can be achieved by performing a life cycle analysis of construction materials. So renewable energy generation such as BIPV and other high performing systems. So the basics of solar, and this is kind of a surprise to a lot of people, that it was first discovered in the late 19th century. Photons carry energy proportional to the wavelength of light. So surfaces absorb light energy, and with enough energy, those same surfaces release electrons, thus creating electricity. And materials that use this technology are called photovoltaics, or PVs, or solar cells. And there's two distinct categories. There's monocrystalline silicon, which is used in virtually every type of solar panel, and there's thin film photovoltaics for applications that require transparency. So what exactly are building integrated photovoltaics? They are sustainable energy generating facades at literally no extra cost. So they are an energy efficient solution for both existing and new facades. They have endless surface design options. This is the basic construction of a BIPV. So what you have is your aluminum honeycomb backing, which is ultra lightweight and advanced backing technology. You have your solar cell in front of the aluminum honeycomb, and on top of the solar cell is a layer of clear tempered glass. It starts off clear and it is fully customizable. There are a range of colors and patterns that you can apply to that glass, and it will affect performance. And we're going to get into the specifics of that a little bit later. But for now, just understanding what the basic composition of a building integrated photovoltaic is. And what that means is that the solar technology is integrated directly into the cladding panel, right? So your cladding is your solar is your cladding. So an overview of the technology, according to the IEA Renewable Energy Report in 2020, solar energy is the cheapest source of energy in the world. Solar facades can generate a substantial percentage of the total electricity demand of a building. Depending on how much solar you can get on a building, you could be looking at reducing the operating expenses by 30 to 40%. So a solar facade will significantly reduce a building's carbon footprint, which again is where sustainability is going, and that is the whole point. And with integrating solar facades, there are government incentives that a building owner can take advantage of. So integrating a solar facade can take your building from energy efficient to net zero. And there are three distinct categories for this technology. You have your transparent technology, you have your semi-transparent technology, and your opaque. Transparent is pretty clear. You can still see through it. You can maintain visibility for applications like balcony railings where you have waterfront property, and you certainly don't want anything to get in the way of being able to sit on your balcony and see the water. So transparent technology is a good idea. Then semi-transparent, it's obvious that there's solar cells in there. So for areas like, staircase areas where, people don't live in stairwells. So in areas that, you don't mind the look of solar cell being visible. And you can play around with the spacing of those solar cells. So there are things you can do there to customize it. And then there's the opaque technology, which is not transparent at all. And this is for applications like cladding or spandrel panels. They can be integrated into curtain wall or window wall. So there's a lot of various applications, but those are the three distinct categories. The technology is, fully customizable in the sense that you can recreate just about any look. You can take a simple monochromatic color, or you can replicate a pattern of a wood grain, for example, or you can take a photo of your favorite marble pattern and you can apply that to the facing. So anything really is possible. The different designs that you can apply will affect the performance of the panel. So if you put nothing on the glass and the solar cell is completely visible, you have a high performance panel. As you add color or pattern, that will affect the performance. So I certainly don't expect anybody to remember exactly what color produces how many watts of power per square foot. But if you can remember two very simple rules, that is this. Number one, at minimum, any color or pattern will generate 7 watts of power per square foot at minimum. On the high end, you can get 19 or 20 watts, and then anything in between. So rule number one, at minimum 7 watts. Rule number two, the darker the facing color or design is, the better the performance. Those are the two simple rules when you're thinking about power output, if you're thinking about building integrated photovoltaics. Now, installation system options are really important, because if you can't easily apply it to a building, then what's the point? There's only so much you can do with, tacking on a solar panel on the side of a building. If you can't properly integrate it into a building system, then that kind of defeats the purpose. So there are three methods of installation. There are rain screen system, which is stick built and pre-assembled, which is a system that is adjustable. Any kind of pre-assembly work that you can do at the facility is always better for reducing time on site and speeding up installation. There is a prefab wall system, which is essentially a full wall assembly that includes your vapor barrier, your insulation, your fire stop, and the facing can either be solar or non-solar. So you have system options on any of these installation methods. Then you have the unitized wall system, which acts like precast without the weight. So it's basically the facing of your choice, and it installs from the interior of the building, which alleviates a lot of challenges. So there are a lot of benefits to using any of these systems. It really comes down to what design of the building are you looking at, and what system of installation makes sense. Solar railing is a big area of opportunity on a building as well. It is very easy to swap out your standard balcony railing with a BIPV railing that generates electricity. There's different design options, there's different systems. You can have a simple post and cap, or you can have a base shoe mount. It all depends on what the design of the building is, but all of this can be integrated easily into a balcony railing. And then solar glass applications, again, it's 2 layers of tempered glass with solar cell technology in between. They are heat tempered, and it generates energy, obviously, while maintaining the functionality of the glass. So it can be integrated into an IGU, or it can be integrated into curtain wall or window wall. So again, depending on the size of the project, depending on the nature of the project, there are a lot of different ways to incorporate BIPVs. Now, as far as, pardon me, as far as the components of a BIPV system are, believe it or not, they are identical to a standard rooftop racking system. There is no difference. The difference is in a vertical application, you don't have gravity working against you. In a rooftop application, you do, and there are some limitations. So rooftop panels are an additional cost to any project, meaning your roof has to be built, and you have to accommodate the weight of the panels. And all of the equipment required to hook everything up is the exact same, but in a vertical application, gravity works for you. The panels are connected in the same way. The only difference is they are integrated into the cladding. It's not a separate add-on. So your cladding is your solar. Your solar is your cladding, right? So the same connections that apply on a rooftop apply in a vertical application. And it's the same components, your rapid shutdown, your inverter, your switchgear, all that kind of stuff. The system comes with a monitoring system that allows you to visualize in real time what the energy production of that system is. So you can track the voltage, you can track the current of each string in the system. Once the system goes live, you can track the history. So if you complete an installation on January 1st, next January 1st, you can go back and say, what kind of power did the system generate a year ago today? And that data will be available at any time. And then, of course, the monitoring system will also track any fault in the system. So on the back of every single panel is a bypass diode, which means that if something happens to one panel, it will not affect the performance of any of the other panels connected to it. But there will be a notification that that one panel is down. So you will know that panel 13 on the west elevation on the 30th floor is out, for example, if something does happen. So the software is provided so that you can track all of that information. How do you connect to the grid? There are a number of ways to do it. Every state has a different program, so we rely on the good folks that we work with in the various regions to determine what those programs are. So there are FIT programs that allow building owners to sell energy back to the grid at a fixed price, right? There's net metering, which basically, stores generated energy to use as needed. If the building generates more than it consumes, the owner can get credit for that at a future use. In most cases, what the building generates on a daily basis, the building consumes on a daily basis. And if there's anything outside of that that the building owner would like to do, then those are options that can be investigated. I want to talk a little bit about a rain screen case study. So this is an actual project that used BIPV. This is a retrofit situation. So this is an existing building that was approaching 70 years old, was in desperate need of a facelift, and was looking not only for a facelift, but to improve thermal performance. So what better way than to wrap it in an electric blanket and, make it look pretty and have it generate electricity. So in this particular case, this is 10,000 square feet of active BIPV technology. So the savings over the course of the next 30 years is going to be significant, over $500,000, right? So that is a significant reduction in operating expenses for the building owner. So questions come up all the time. What do you do with the wires? What does that look like? How do the wires connect? Where do the wires connect? There is no standard answer because every building is different. And where the home run cable will run, where the inverters will be located, how many inverters will be required, those are all questions that need to be answered on a case-by-case basis. So there's no standard answer. But the connections are very simple. It is a simple male-female connection. All of the wiring is behind the panel. And depending on what method of installation you are embarking on, that will determine how the wiring will get integrated into the building, right? So simple male-female low voltage connection behind the panels, and any cladding installer who knows what they're doing can easily, connect the panels. This is an example of what a conduit installation looks like. So the wires are strung through the conduits. The conduits in this particular case go up to the roof. The inverter was located on the roof, and the home run cable is on the roof. And so all connections happened on the roof, but this is a short building. In the event of a high rise, then there are other areas. And again, those would be determined on a case-by-case basis to figure out where those wires will run and where the inverters will go, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the inverters are roughly the size of a standard microwave, so they don't take up a lot of room. They are easily connected into an existing electrical room. For a new construction, they are something that can easily be worked into a future electrical room. So what are the benefits of BIPV? There's a lot, but the top three or four reasons are right in front of you. The biggest being that you are now converting a building into its own power generation station. That is the biggest advantage. You now have a facade that is generating electricity. That is the biggest advantage here, is reducing the operating costs of this building. If it's an apartment building owner who's responsible for the majority of the electricity that is being paid, then this is a huge bonus to them. If it is a condo developer, who is looking to reduce operating expenses in the common areas because the unit holders pay for their own electricity, there's a lot of benefit to that. So every scenario is different. Every building owner is different, but the biggest benefit is generating electricity. So the aesthetics is there. I have yet to meet an architect who says, yes, I would love to put that hideous looking dark panel on the side of my building all the way up to the 30th floor. Said no one ever. So aesthetics has probably been one of the biggest challenges to integrating BIPV on any building, whether it's a new build or a retrofit. So the aesthetics is there now. The design flexibility is there, so it can harmoniously blend with the building's architectural intent. Reducing energy costs, obviously, BIPV systems help to offset energy consumption, resulting in lower utility bills over time. And sustainability is also a huge factor. BIPV reduces reliance on fossil fuels, so you are lowering greenhouse gas emissions and you are promoting clean energy generation. So the various applications of BIPV are quite simple. It really comes down to this. There's a very simple rule, and that is that any surface that is touched by the sun should and could generate its own electricity. So what difference does it make if it's a warehouse, a stadium, a hospital, an airport, a data center, or a warehouse? It doesn't. Anything that is touched by the sun should be able to generate electricity, and that is the beauty of having building integrated photovoltaics. So here are some examples of buildings that can have this technology integrated into their facade. Now, cladding is the largest area of opportunity by far, but there are other areas. Again, curtain wall or window wall integration, IGUs, parking lot with operable fins, a data center, right? So a lot of areas to look at it. Here are some examples of balcony railings that can easily integrate this technology, and more solar glass projects. So the question, the first question is, where does it make sense to put it? So that is a question that needs to be addressed when a design review of a particular project is taking place. As I said, cladding is the largest area of opportunity for any building, right? But the other areas are balcony railings, spandrel panels, curtain wall, and window wall integration. The job of any BIPV specialist is to look at the building's orientation, take a look at the building's design, what elements are affecting the potential power generation. Are there mature trees right up against the building? Are there other buildings that are close that cause shade? Are there design elements like canopies or projected balconies or fins or, anything that would create shade? Are there a lot of recesses and projections on the building? So all of those things need to be taken into consideration when you're looking at, whether BIPV is a good fit for a project. As I said, retrofit is a large area of opportunity. There is a huge percentage of buildings that are approaching 50 and 60 years old that are starting to fall apart and need some tender loving care. So what better way to improve the physical appearance of the building than by cladding it in a material that is going to generate electricity for that building? So these are the things that you have to understand when you are contemplating the possibility of designing with BIPV. So selecting the right project, the right product that is going to help you reach your performance objective is really important. And when I say performance objective, I mean this. You may have some clients who say, I just want to get enough on so that I can say, look at me, I'm being cognizant of sustainability, and I want to make it look like, I'm doing my part kind of thing. Or the other performance objective is a client says to you, I want to generate, 400,000 kilowatt hours per year. How do we do that? How do we, look at BIPV? So it's really important to understand which products are available to help you and your client reach their performance objective. Designing with BIPV in the early stages is really important. We need to collaborate between engineers and architects to get them to understand that color selection is really important in the early onset of the project. If a client has a very high projection that they would like to achieve with BIPV and they're looking at a white cladding, they need to understand that they might have to alter, their color selection. Remember, the rule is the darker the better. So if they have a very ambitious goal for power generation, they're going to have to look at a darker color instead of the white or the light beige that they were originally thinking of. Understanding the different installation systems that are available, understanding panel layout and electrical design. So these are all things that the manufacturer can provide in the early stages so that you and your clients understand what it means. Finding that sweet spot between aesthetics and performance is so important. So, if a client says, I really like this dark yellow color, but it's not doing much, what can we do but still stay within the yellow family? Well, there's optimization that we can incorporate. So you're still within that color family, but we've just tacked on another 1 or 2 watts per square foot, right? So understanding that the color material selection is really important so that we can find that balance. Also, a misconception with solar is that it's only the south side that generates electricity. That is not true at all. As you can see by this, you can, the west is less than the east, but both sides are very strong. The south obviously is the best performer, but look at what the north is doing. The north can generate almost 30% of what the south side is doing. How is that possible? Very simple, because it works on reflected light. It does not require direct sunlight in order to generate electricity. So when we look at a building for the potential of BIPV, And we want to provide an estimation to say, this building can generate such and such electricity. We take a look at all four orientations. Now, in the end, if the client says, you know what, let's just go with the south or the south and the east, that's fine. But it's really important to understand what the full potential of the building is before you make that decision. So hopefully you have a better understanding of what sustainable material selection means, why we like to work early with architects, understanding what color selection means and the importance of it, system orientation, and why all of that is really important. So we're going to talk about testing now and some other standards. This is a question that gets asked all the time. How safe is it to use this material on a building? Has it been tested for A, B, C, D, E, F? Yes, it has. This is the first page of our testing document that goes over so many tests. I can't even go over them during the course of the presentation. It's too long. That information can be provided to you upon request, not a problem. So let's go over the simple things. These are the questions that get asked all the time. Fire, windstorm, missile impact, compression, tension, shear, buckling, torsion, freeze thaw, laboratory aging. All of these tests have been completed. We are certified in Miami-Dade, listed on the California Energy Commission. We have, done every test, NFPA 285, S134, S114, E1886 for windstorm, E1996 for missile impact. Every test that can be done for both a building code compliance and for photovoltaic module performance and safety has been completed. The difference between this technology and other manufacturers out there is the ability to go past the 6th story. Most BIPV products do not have all of their certifications, which means they can only go up to the 6th story. But if you're working on a high-rise tower, that's kind of useless, right? So all of the testing has been done. This is my favorite, Wrecking Ball, minus Miley Cyrus and her Grammy. LEED is really important to understand as well. If it is something important to you, up to 40 LEED points can be achieved through this technology. So it applies to optimizing energy performance, advanced energy metering, renewable energy production, demand response, green power, and carbon offsets. So this is really interesting, how governments are reacting to the climate crisis. I would like to say that Canada is following suit in the US. We're not, but in the US, your government is doing a lot. There are financial incentives for green buildings that are 30% minimum. There are other layers that you can add to that take you above 30%. It all depends on a number of different factors, but there are some serious financial incentives available. Very ambitious building standards, are being applied. And in some areas like New York, financial penalties are being applied for high carbon buildings. So governments are catching up, and they are definitely on top of that. And companies are aligning with sustainable development goals now more than ever before, which is fantastic. So there are a lot of programs and initiatives that have begun and continue to move forward, which is, we're all moving in the right direction. Let's just say that. Market analysis is really interesting. I remember when I first saw this slide, I kind of went, what? Look at those numbers. They're pretty substantial. So in North America, look where we were in 2018. This is gigawatt production, okay? So in 2018, North America was at 55 gigawatts. By the end of 2050, we are going to be close to, 1,730. That's huge. And I think it's clear that in Europe and in Asia and in other parts of the world, this is the trend. And so the question is always asked, why is that? Why are we trending so highly towards that? I think the answer is pretty simple. The fact is that the cost of solar energy has dropped like a rock. Worldwide average module prices dropped about 78% from $3.25 per watt to about 72 cents per watt. The cost of battery storage has dropped. So integrating solar technology has dropped overall, which makes this technology much more appealing. And when you factor that in with government incentives, it's understandable why we're moving towards that trend. And BIPV is carbon negative. So it's a building material that not only pays back its embodied carbon in under 5 years, but it also acts as an offset to the embodied carbon within the rest of the building afterwards. The environmental impact is pretty clear. So a building in Texas, 960,000 kilowatt hours for 100,000 square feet of active cladding. That same building in Toronto generates 720,000 kilowatts. That equals to 811 acres of forest in 1 year. So clad one building or find a shovel, and I hope you got a lot of time because we got to plant a lot of trees, right? So in summary, I hope now that you have a much better idea of, first of all, what the basics of solar energy is, that it's been around for a long time, and you understand the basics of it and how it has been traditionally harnessed. You understand what a building integrated photovoltaic is, and you can discuss how they can improve on traditional photovoltaics in terms of design and performance. You understand how you can incorporate BIPV systems into either new construction or a retrofit. And you understand, at least in a basic form, the money and the energy savings possible through BIPVs by analyzing market research and case studies. So this concludes the formal presentation. I am going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to turn my camera on so you can see me. Now, I apologize. I look very different than the photo that was at the top of the presentation. I had dark hair. I have recently gone very light. So not to say this is misrepresentation in advertising. I just colored my hair a few days ago.
Well, the knowledge is still there, clearly. Terry, thank you for that. That's super helpful. It's a good rundown. I think the science is there. There are a ton of Q&A questions, so we'll try to get through those as much as we can. I'll kind of start at the top and try to pair things together. There's a question, can transparent panels be used for building glazing?
Yes, they can. Absolutely, they can be. So we are not a window manufacturer, but we work with window manufacturers. So we will provide our technology to them, and they can integrate that technology into their systems.
Cool. A couple questions here about bird-friendly options or frit options. What are options for bird-friendly versions of these panels?
Yeah, so obviously, whenever you apply color or pattern, it becomes bird friendly because it's not reflecting. So that that eliminates that problem. But we can provide frit patterns that will address that concern as well.
Good. There's a question here about just the difference in production between panels being in this vertical arrangement versus ideal solar angles, and what kind of drop off do you see with that angle, or if, shingling even makes a difference, like what change in efficiency results from angle off of ideal angle?
Gotcha. So this is a very good discussion on BIPV versus BAPV. So rooftop is BAPV, building applied photovoltaics. In building applied photovoltaics like rooftop solar, you have your panels on an angle, and that generates more electricity. So you have roughly 22% efficiency there.
Mhm.
In a vertical application for BIPV, you are roughly at 18% efficiency, right? So there is a drop in production. But here's the difference in production over time. In an BAPV rooftop application, you have gravity working against you, okay? So they require a lot of maintenance. And if you don't clean those panels regularly, the performance will decline exponentially. So at some point, the production of a BIPV panel will equal that of a vertical. Whereas in a vertical application, we start off at 18% and stay at 18%. Gravity is not working against us. Actually, gravity is helping us. Plus, we have two technologies that we apply to our panels, an anti-soiling and an anti-reflective coating. So what that means is every time it rains or snows or rains and high winds, it's self-cleaning. So nothing is building up and the panels do not need to be maintained. So the power performance remains consistent, whereas BIPV, it does not.
And then kind of related to that, is there, I guess there's recommended, they don't BIPVs don't need to be cleaned as much, but is there like recommended maintenance for those over time?
No,
No?
actually, no.
Okay.
Now, if a client wants to, engage a window cleaner and go down and squeegee every panel from the top of the building, that's their prerogative. But is it necessary? No, our panels are virtually maintenance free.
Yeah. There's a question here about like cost and like payback analysis over time. So like how long it might take to recoup additional costs. Are there case studies of that, or is there information about, kind of timeline for that in different projects?
So that question is almost like saying, I want to buy a car. How much is it going to cost me? The next question will be, well, what kind of a car do you want? And what's your budget? Well, I have 50,000, but I want a sunroof and I want this and I want that. Well, okay. So if your budget is 50,000 and you're looking at $100,000 car, it's going to take you a while to get that back, right? What I say is this, it all depends on what material you're currently looking at for a building. If you're building with stucco or EIFS, BIPV is a material that is at a premium in comparison. So your ROI will be longer. But if you're looking at a precast panel, or if you're looking at a porcelain or some other, mid-range material, your ROI could be 5 years or less. If you're looking at a higher end material, your ROI is immediate. So that is a very difficult question to answer because it all depends on your budget, the design of the building, what material you're considering, because our material is extremely competitive with ACM pricing. So if you're looking at putting metal on your building, here's what you need to understand. You have a choice. You can spend $5 million on a facade that looks nice but gives you nothing, or you can spend $5.3 million on a facade that looks great and generates electricity for the next 30 plus years. The delta between what you were going to spend anyway and what you might spend with BIPV is $300,000. How long will it take you to get that $300,000 back? Could be a year, could be 2 years, or it could be no time because you also have an investment tax credit that you're going to apply. In that case, your ROI is almost immediate.
I'm seeing there's a ton of good questions here. There's also some questions popping up in the chat. I want to take one from there.
Okay.
A question about if the panels are recyclable, and then a question about, the embodied carbon of aluminum, because the honeycomb is all aluminum, and kind of thinking about the carbon footprint of even those materials, if there are options or thoughts about recyclability.
Yeah, so as one of the last slides showed, the embodied carbon is low. And so it pays for itself in, 5 years and then acts as an offset for the rest of the building afterwards. As far as being recyclable, absolutely, it's glass and aluminum. Everything in the panel is recyclable. The only thing that isn't really recyclable is the solar cell itself. And I suspect, that's going to change over time as well. It will get to a point where the entire panel will almost be 100% recyclable.
So
But
those pieces,
currently we are at 95%.
so those pieces can be like, deconstructed or pulled apart, and the aluminum can be potentially recycled.
Yes.
Um, Good. That's good news. Let's see. A couple questions here about connections, like the wiring.
Mhm.
It seems like there are a lot of connection. There's a question about a lot of connections, just wires to wires, and how maybe there's how does that work, or about maintenance if there are wiring issues. Um, just thinking through all the connections if you have a large facade of this product.
Great question. Okay, so here's what I can't say, because I don't know what kind of building we're looking at, but let me give you some basic scenarios. If we're looking at a low-rise building, more than likely, all of those connections will run their way up to the roof, and the main connection will be on the roof, which means all the wires will run through the conduits. They're connected to each other, and then the main connection is on the roof. If we're looking at a high rise, we could be looking at inverters in the basement. We could be looking at inverters on the 15th floor or inverters on the 30th floor. It really does depend on the design. Okay. So there's no one answer. What I can tell you is that every scenario is completely different, and we have a full house of electrical engineers and design engineers whose main job is to make sure that every single wire is invisibly and seamlessly integrated into the facade so that at no point will anybody be able to see anything. All they know is that the facade is going to generate electricity. Very simple.
And then I guess each panel is removable if there's some issue or a connector has like you can kind of go in individually to troubleshoot.
So that depends on two things. Number one, if you have a building that is 100,000 square feet and one panel goes down, that one panel is not going to make a difference to the overall production over the next 30 plus years. We're not going to worry about that.
Mm.
The monitoring system will let us know that panel 13 on the west elevation on the 30th floor is out. Okay. Then we make the determination. Do we replace one panel? No, that's not going to make a difference. Now, if an entire string goes down and there's 15 panels on that string, then yes, we need to take a look at replacing or trying to figure out what the problem is. If the panels need to be replaced, we need to understand what installation system was used. In a rain screen application, it's very easy to pop out one panel. But in a prefab wall solution where it is a slab to slab connection and a much larger assembly, then in that case, we may have to shave off the facing and replace the facing. We can't go from the inside of the building and, disconnect the entire panel. So it depends on the method of installation, number one, and it depends on the size of the maintenance issue that will determine whether a panel needs to be replaced.
And then a question here about if it's in the balcony railing installation, how does the wiring work for that or concealment of that?
Yeah, very easy. It depends on the design of the balcony. So is it a post and cap? If it is, the wires will go through the post and the cap. If it's a base shoe mount, it'll go in the base shoe. If there's something else that needs to be done, then they'll figure that out. But that's our problem to figure out, not yours.
A couple of questions here about integration into IGUs or how it might work with glass. What's the thinking there? And is there incorporation that's possible?
Yes, it can be integrated into an IGU, and how that will work is entirely up to the window manufacturer. So we will work with them to figure out how those wires will be integrated into the mullion.
And then I guess the wiring is all kind of dealt with as in the panel assembly, and
Exactly. And
coordinated
it
with
depends
windows.
on the nature of the project. So again, those are specific questions that we can answer depending on the design. Once we're looking at drawings, then we can make some determinations.
Good. Some more quicker questions here. Question about the finish of the aluminum honeycomb backing and what that is. Attendee has a question about compatibility for silicone glazing or what that surface is like in terms of adherence or yeah, I guess general question of what the finish is like on the back of the panel.
On the back of the panel,
Yeah, I guess,
it's aluminum. It's a
yeah.
sheet of aluminum.
So it's got it.
Yeah.
Let's see, other questions here. Let's see. Is in this system, are these standard panels or thin film PV panels?
Standard panels or okay. The technology is different. There's thin
Yeah.
film solar cells that we can integrate into a panel, or there is opaque technology that we can integrate into a panel.
Mhm.
There's different types of solar cell technology.
Got it. I guess a follow-up to that quick question about the finishing of the aluminum, is it painted or is it anodized or just a, you know, mill finish?
It's just a standard aluminum finish. I'm
Okay.
not sure. It's funny because I never get asked about the back of it. We always get asked about the front of it. What's on the facing? I can tell you that the material in the front, the glass that we use, it can be a matte finish, it can be a satin finish, or it can be a
Mhm.
glossy finish. It all depends on what material intent is there. If you
Mhm.
want the panels to look like metal, then if you're looking at a shiny metal, then we would use a glossy glass. If you're looking for a matte finish, then we would use a matte glass. So finishes are more on the front, not the back.
Definitely. Let's see, I know we have, I'm trying to get to more of these questions. Is there info available regarding like wiring, conduit gauge, flexibility, plug size, if you're thinking about how to detail or work on a curtain wall? I guess is there information available about all of that detailing?
That kind of detailing is something that we would work out with the engineer.
Mhm.
We do have, we have a bunch of information on our systems, our rain screen application, our prefab wall solution, our claditized solution. We have information on inverters. We've got a video that shows you a journey from beginning to end of an installation so you can see what that wiring looks like. But, real specific information on like brands and stuff like that. Our technology is agnostic, by the way. It doesn't
Mhm.
care what brand of wiring or what brand of inverters we use. Makes no difference.
Let's see. Maybe you could talk a little bit about just traction on transparent applications for like all glass facades, and if that's kind of a big part of your business or what the kind of trends for that has been like lately.
For transparent, I'll be totally honest and say that is not something I recommend to my clients for two reasons. Number one, the cost of transparent technology is far more expensive than opaque technology. Number two, you get 5 watts of power per square foot on transparent. So you're paying more for the glass and you're getting less power than any other BIPV technology. That doesn't make sense to me. So I always tell my clients that and they say, well, thank you. But in this particular case, it's waterfront and I want my clients to be able to see from their balcony. Okay, that's fine. There's some limitations with working with transparent thin film technology. You can't cut a solar cell and have it be active. So we have to work within the size limitations. Whereas opaque technology, there's a lot we can do with opaque.
A question here about if you're designing a facade and you only want BIPV for a certain portion of it, can you deliver panels that are, that look the same but don't have those cells integrated to kind of just do part of the facade?
Of course,
Yeah.
we have to maintain aesthetic integrity. We cannot, have one part of the building that's active and then the other side looks completely different. The last thing you want anybody to do is look at a building and go, yeah, yeah, look at that. Oh my God, I could so tell that that's not active technology. No, no, from an aesthetic perspective, the entire building will look uniform. You will have no clue which elevation or which side or which panel is actually generating electricity. Will all look the same. But in some areas, it doesn't make sense to have an active panel. For example, on an elevation where it's butt up against another building, we're not going to put active cells on that side. It's going to be without solar cells. But the aesthetic, so if the client picked an aesthetic that looks like white marble, well, the entire building is going to look like white marble.
Mhm. And then I guess, when you use this in a retrofit fashion, if you can like come back and reclad or clad over, are there ways that you can kind of install this and have the aesthetics of the original facade be maintained and observed?
Have the aesthetics. Oh, so for example, if you've got a brick building and you want it to stay looking like a brick building,
Sure, yeah.
so of course we can create any pattern, any color. I can take a favorite, a photograph of your favorite red plaid shirt and recreate the entire building to look like a plaid shirt, right? Anything is possible.
Let's see, a couple questions here. Have you installed this system on existing single-family homes? Have you had residential projects before?
No, we don't do residential projects. We only do large scale projects like industrial buildings or, high-rise buildings, that type of thing. We do have a residential product line that you can order directly off of our website. So if you own a home and you've got a south-facing wall that is large and you want to put a few panels on it, then you can order that directly off our website. Or if you want panels for your roof that look like the existing shingles, so it's not obvious to everybody that you've got solar on your roof, then you can get on Matrix.com and buy those panels separately. So you would just order them online and then find an installer in your region, and they can install either the wall panels or the rooftop panels.
And then can you share maybe, about the current couple, I'm going to combine two questions here. The current cost per square foot, and then maybe saying something about the lifespan or kind of warranty options for these installations.
Yeah. So the cost per square foot is dependent on the system installation method. But what I can tell you ballpark is anywhere between $90 and $100 per square foot for a full turnkey solution in a rain screen application.
Mm.
So that means panels, connections, wiring, inverters, installation, connection, et cetera, everything all in one, A to Z, $90 to $100 for rain screen. Our prefab for our full wall assembly, you're looking at anywhere between 110 to 120.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
as far as lifespan goes, we guarantee our technology for life against delamination because it is a sandwich panel construction, number one, for life. Number two, we guarantee the performance of our technology that at the 25-year mark, those panels will still generate 80% of what the original production was on day one. 80%.
we have time for a couple more. I'm gonna gang two together. Does this product have approval for use in Florida, like related to hurricane winds and impact? And then a second question would be, do you have an EPD for this that interested parties can review?
Yes. So the Florida question, we are certified in Miami-Dade. Yes, we do. We are currently working on a number of projects where the wind load requirements are 180 miles per hour. And our technology and our, racking system, our installation methods can handle that. Yes. EPDs are available upon request. So if you want specific information, reach out to me and I'd be happy to provide it.
Great. There's a question, I think it was from the chat that I was interested in. Are there examples of installed projects in like in the New York area? Do you have like case studies that, interested parties can review or check out?
So our company's been around for 25 years, but we launched our solar technology 4 years ago. As an architect, I'm sure you all understand that from the moment you scribble a lovely design on the back of a napkin to the time you have shovels in the ground, it's at least a 5-year process. We have a number of projects that will begin construction over the next 18 to 24 months. In New York, we have a project, Communipaw Avenue, which is currently under construction. That will be the first in Jersey City. We have a number of projects that will come down the pipe in the next 24 months, but it's too early for those. And we do have installations that we've done in Toronto, and we have some case studies on those installations that if you'd like, you can reach out to me and I can provide that information to you. So not a lot right now, but a lot in the pipeline. And over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of buildings.
Good. I look forward to hearing about those as they complete. I'm sure that's something that will be super interesting to cover in the future. Okay, I think there are lots of great questions in the chat. I think as part of this webinar, you have Terry's email address. If there are more questions or you'd like to kind of continue the conversation, it's really great to see all the interest and enthusiasm. It's a super exciting way to clad buildings and make them, generate electricity. So I just wanted to say, to kind of wrap up, just wanted to say thank you to Terry for sharing her expertise with us today.
Pleasure.
And thank you to everyone for being here to attend this live webinar titled Take Advantage of Your Vertical Surfaces, Building Integrated Photovoltaics, a CE Strong webinar powered by the Architects newspaper. And again, today's presentation was sponsored by Mitrex. As you know, the webinar is recorded and can easily be replayed using the same registration link. Please allow 7 business days to process certificates of participation and AIA credit reporting for this presentation. And again, thank you so much, Terry, for sharing about this technology and all the different applications and the ins and outs and the details. And thanks again to Mitrex for sponsoring this webinar. We hope to see you again at a future event and hope you have a great day. So thanks again, everyone.
Bye.